Have you ever felt the weight of 100 judgmental eyes the moment you walk into a room? I step forward, the click of my heels echoing on the polished tile, clutching a single white rose. Whispers swirl around me, friends of my ex-husband sneering, "She doesn't even belong here." Their soft chuckles swell like a rising tide, threatening to pull me under. My breath catches, my fingers tremble around the rose's stem. Then, cutting through the murmurs, the lawyer clears his throat. Every head turns as he opens the leather-bound folder and announces in a measured tone, "Mrs. Amelia Carter." In that instant, the room freezes. Every smirk disappears. Every whisper dies. They realize I am not merely an uninvited guest. I am the sole heir to everything he left behind. I offer a faint, controlled smile and say, "Thank you all for coming. Stay with my story until the end and comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far my journey reaches." I wake before the first hint of dawn, the sky outside my window still a deep indigo. I stretch, feeling the soft mattress cradle my shoulders, then slip out from under the covers. My bare feet find the cool hardwood floor, and I pause at the edge of the bed, inhaling the quiet of my small coastal cottage. The comforting scent of chamomile tea lingers in the air from last night's cup, mingled with a faint sea salt breeze drifting in through the cracked window. In the bathroom mirror, I study my own reflection. Tired eyes framed by dark hair pulled back into a loose bun, the faintest shadow beneath my cheekbones, reminding me of the sleepless nights that led me here. I trace the lines around my mouth, lines etched by both laughter and tears. I remind myself that today matters. Today, I claim what was always meant for me. I dress in practical clothing, dark washed jeans that hug my hips and taper at the ankle, a soft cotton blouse in a warm ivory tone, and worn leather boots that have carried me through farmers markets and back alley deliveries. I pull on a tailored blazer, charcoal gray, structured at the shoulders, borrowed from a dear friend who insisted I wear something exactly like Amelia, but more formidable. I smile at the reminder. I am formidable. In the kitchen, I pour myself a mug of tea, green with jasmine, the steam curling in delicate spirals. I carry it to the small wooden table by the window, where a battered journal sits open beside a pen. On the page, my neat handwriting outlines the chores of the day. Meet the contractors, tour the estate, finalize the garden plans, send the schedule to volunteers. I glance at the list, heart pounding. Each item represents a step away from the past. And toward the future, I choose. The sun has begun to tint the horizon, a pale rose by the time I slip behind the wheel of my old SUV. The engine's rumble echoes in the empty street. The town still sleeps. Only a few stray morning joggers wave as they pass. The scent of salt and seaweed drifts in through the open window. I press my palm against the steering wheel and close my eyes for a moment, grounding myself in the world outside my own doubts. The drive to St. Bartholomew's Chapel winds along the coast, hugging cliffs that drop into the churning gray-green water below. I slow the car around a bend, watching sunlight glitter on the swells like scattered diamonds. I remind myself, I chose this life. I chose freedom, authenticity, the uncertain warmth of building something real. And I chose to return today in borrowed suit and borrowed armor, because this place, once a symbol of my imprisonment, is now the stage for my vindication. I park along the gravel drive beside the chapel, its stone facade rising like a silent sentinel against the morning sky. Ivy crawls up the walls, tendrils gripping the centuries-old mortar. A wooden sign creaks in the breeze, St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Chapel. I shut off the engine and step out, my boots crunching on loose stones. The sea air whips around me, carrying gull cries and the distant hum of boats waking in the harbor. I pause on the stone steps, laying my thermos beside the topmost slab. I lean back against the cool rock, closing my eyes to the world. The chapel breathes around me, the low moan of wind through stained glass windows, the slow drip of condensation from the spout overhead. I inhale deeply until my lungs ache with the taste of salt and moss and anticipation. When I open my eyes, the sky has blushed a pale apricot. I smooth the front of my blazer and adjust the strap of my purse over my shoulder. My journal lies beneath the thermos, filled with the names of local community leaders I intend to invite to the cooking school, notes on schedules, and even sketches of planting beds for the garden. This journal is no longer just a record of my survival. It is the blueprint for my return. I push open the heavy wooden doors and step inside. The chapel's interior is hushed, a cathedral of soft shadows and muted colors. Candles flicker in wrought iron holders lined along the aisles, their flames casting quivering patterns on the polished pews. The stained glass above my head bathes the floor in shards of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. The scent of incense, sandalwood, and frankincense swirls low, grounding me in the moment. I move carefully down the center aisle, each footfall softened by the plush runner. The wood beneath the runner is smooth and cool, sending tiny shivers up my spine. Rows of attendees, clad in dark suits and muted dresses, occupy the front half of the church. Their backs are stiff, shoulders squared. They sit in clusters, his business associates with starched collars, his family with practiced solemnity, neighbors who whispered when I first moved away. My pulse drumrolls in my ears, but I draw my shoulders back, lift my chin, and meet their stares with unflinching calm. I settle into a back pew, folding my hands in my lap. The texture of the seat cushion, velvet worn thin, barges into my sense of presence. I feel the faint vibration of conversation as whispers ricochet between stone walls. "She showed up for attention," someone hisses. "Should have stayed away," another laments under breath. I imagine the ripple of their judgments as a tangible force, but I anchor myself in the scent of polished wood and candle smoke. Ahead, the pastor stands beside the pulpit, his Bible open. I study his gold-rimmed glasses, the way he shifts notes from hand to hand, the crease in his brow that suggests empathy. He looks at me, just briefly, then lowers his gaze and begins the eulogy. The timbre of his voice resonates with respect, measured syllables painting a portrait of the man we have gathered to mourn. I close my eyes and listen as memories swirl. Afternoons when laughter once filled this same room as he and I planned wedding details. Evenings when I sat in this pew reading hymnals I pretended to understand. Nights when the church bells tolled and I prayed for courage to leave. Those echoes feel distant now, softened by time and sharpened by loss. When the eulogy ends, the congregation remains seated. The pastor nods toward the altar, inviting guests to approach and pay their respects. I rise smoothly, feeling the fabric of my blouse brush against my ribs. I step from the pew and walk down the aisle. Light fractures through the stained glass, scattering kaleidoscopic reflections onto the backs of heads. The air feels electric, as if holding its breath. At the front, a single white rose rests on a pedestal beside the coffin. I reach out, the petal's softness surprising against my palm. Undertones of dew tickle my fingers. I fold the stem between my knuckles, bow my head, and place it atop the polished mahogany lid. The rose lies there, a symbol of both farewell and new beginnings. I straighten and turn, retracing my steps back to the pew. I feel the weight of every gaze, every thought, but my posture holds steady. I slip into my seat, and the chapel doors stand half open behind me, admitting tendrils of morning light and the distant cry of gulls. I rest my hands on my lap and inhale the mingled scents of wood polish, incense, and fresh-cut flowers. My heart hammers, but my breathing remains deliberate. This place, once a hallmark of constraints and expectations, has become the crucible of my reclamation. I remind myself, I am Amelia Carter, culinary instructor, community advocate, survivor. Here, in this hushed sanctuary, I prepare to stand tall. Outside, the day brightens. A breeze stirs the ivy on the chapel walls. Inside, I close my eyes for a moment and whisper a silent promise to honor the past, seize the future, and use every ounce of my strength to build something lasting, something worthy of his final blessing. With that vow, I open my eyes to the path ahead, The chapel's hush feels less like oppression and more like reverence. I sit, ready for the next chapter, ready to turn the page. I sink back into the velvet pew as the hush settles around me, but my senses remain on high alert. The incense hangs like a warm curtain, its sweet sandalwood notes weaving between the floral scents of lilies and roses. I trace the wood grain with my fingertips, each ridge reminding me of every tremor in my life up to this moment. A soft rustle to my right draws my attention. A woman, I recognize her as Pamela, his cousin with the precise auburn bob, leans toward her companion. Her perfume, a sharp swirl of jasmine and musk, wafts into my space. I listen as she murmurs, her voice coated in disdain. She only came for the inheritance. The words land in my chest like stones, but I force my expression to remain neutral. I will not grant them the satisfaction of my reaction, yet every glance they cast feels like a blade. I sense the congregation's eyes flicking to me, assessing whether I'm the same timid woman they believed I was. Some eyebrows lift in curiosity, others crease in judgment. I swallow, tasting the metallic tang of adrenaline in my mouth, and ground myself against the pew's backrest. I have weathered storms greater than this. The pastor's eulogy has ended, his final words echoing in the rafters. A solemn pause lingers, then a tremor of movement as mourners rise to approach the coffin. I stand, heart rattling like a trapped bird, and step onto the carpeted aisle. My heels sink into the plush runner, muffling my steps. The stained glass windows cast a mosaic of color across my path, ruby, amber, sapphire dancing on the muted gray stone. I feel as though I walk through shards of their stairs, each colored beam illuminating a hidden thought. As I reach the front, I pause at the single white rose waiting on its pedestal. Its petals are perfectly unblemished, dew still clinging to the edges. I lean forward, inhaling its delicate fragrance, undertones of innocence and farewell. I place it gently on the coffin, the mahogany's lacquered surface cold beneath my palm. I bow my head, letting my hair fall in a curtain that shields my face from their prying eyes. When I stand, the murmurs begin anew, swirling around me like an undercurrent. I return to my pew, moving past clusters of silent guests whose expressions flicker between pity, curiosity, and barely concealed sneers. I slide into my seat, pressing a hand against the fabric to steady my racing pulse. Moments later, a low gasp ripples through the chapel. I look up to see Pamela's husband lean toward her, his lips parting in surprise. She straightens, her smirk faltering. I follow their gaze to the front, where the lawyer rises from his seat and clears his throat. A hush deeper than before washes over the congregation. The lawyer steps to the pulpit, his polished shoes glinting as he shifts weight from one foot to the other. His folder lies open in his hands. My heart thuds in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears like a drum roll. He begins, "Before we proceed, the deceased left a final will, naming his sole beneficiary." He pauses, scanning the room. "Mrs. Amelia Carter." A collective intake of breath rushes through the crowd. I watch as Pamela's eyelids flutter, her color draining. Beside her, her husband's jaw clenches. Across the aisle, acquaintances who once nodded politely now gape in disbelief. My palms press into the seat cushion, nails grazing the upholstery, but my face remains composed. A murmur swells, soft but insistent. "She's the heir? How could he? I thought—" Their disbelief hangs heavy. I fold my hands in my lap, letting their shock settle around me like a cloak. Their reaction stirs memories. Afternoons we sat across the table, drafting prenuptial agreements in his lawyer's office, his expression unreadable, but always inflexible. Even then, he planned every detail of our life, and now, in death, he has left the final word to me. The realization surges through me, bittersweet and powerful. As the lawyer retreats, the pastor steps forward to resume the ceremony. His voice seals the announcement with solemnity, but the chapel's atmosphere has shifted irrevocably. I sit tall, shoulders squared, letting the energy of their astonishment fuel me. Their stares prick at my skin, but I refuse to shrink. The next visitors approach the casket one by one, family, friends, colleagues, each laying roses, pausing in quiet reflection. I watch their faces as they process the news. Those who once dismissed me now offer silent bows of respect. Others avert their eyes, unable to meet mine. I note a tremor in Pamela's husband's hand as he places his flower, and a brief, grudging nod from a business associate. When the final mourner steps back, the pastor closes his Bible. He offers a benediction, his words a gentle benediction over the gathered souls. Then a final organ chord resonates, and the ceremony draws to a close. The chapel doors swing open, admitting a flood of daylight and fresh sea air. I rise, smoothing the front of my blouse. My legs feel strong, as if the tension in the room has woven itself into my bones. I move down the aisle, passing faces etched with new respect or lingering doubt. I feel the press of expectation, the burden of inheritance, but also the spark of possibility. Stepping into the courtyard, the sunlight feels softer, warmer. The breeze carries the tang of salt and the distant cry of gulls. I close my eyes and tilt my face upward, letting the elements wash over me. The rose I laid remains on the casket beneath the portico, waiting for me when I return to claim what's mine. Here, between past and future, grief and resolve, I draw in a deep breath and commit every sensation to memory. Their laughter and whispers rise behind me, but ahead lies a path I choose to walk, one footstep at a time, toward the legacy I will honor and the life I will rebuild. And so I stand at the threshold of change, heart steady, spirit ignited, ready for the revelations yet to come. The chapel doors swing shut behind the last grieving guest, and I remain at the back, heart still hammering from the lawyer's declaration. A suffocating hush fills the air, broken only by the soft rustle of fabric as mourners shift in their seats. I trace the carved embellishments on the pew in front of me, each swirl and knot reminding me of the years I spent trying to untangle our fractured marriage. Slowly I rise. The polished wood floor beneath my feet is cool, grounding me in reality. Inhaling a steadying breath, I step into the aisle once more, not to lay another rose, but to stand before those who doubted me. As I move forward, the fractured light from the stained glass windows splashes across my face in shards of ruby and sapphire. It's as though the chapel itself is illuminating my transformation, from the invisible wife to the woman who now holds his final, unambiguous trust. I reach the chancel and pause, turning so that every pair of eyes finds me. Faces that once regarded me with scorn now hover between curiosity and remorse. Pamela lifts her chin, but the cold assurance in her gaze has thawed into uncertainty. I press my shoulders back, hands brushing the folds of my skirt as I prepare to speak. Every sound falls silent. Even the flicker of the candles seems to pause. I raise a hand, not to plead or to threaten, but simply to gather the collective breath of this room. Then, in a voice that trembles only with held-back emotion, I begin, I've heard the whispers. I've felt the judgment. Some of you believe I stood here today for revenge or for greed, but the truth is simpler and more profound. I pause, letting those words settle. I can feel the weight of each gaze, each unspoken question. The silence stretches, but I hold it. 2 years ago, I walked away because I chose myself over fear. I walked away because love shouldn't feel like imprisonment. And today, I stand here because he chose to entrust me with his legacy, not as an act of spite, but as an act of faith. I let the significance of legacy hang in the charged air. I see heads nodding imperceptibly, a few mouths open, perhaps to form apologies that never come. My throat constricts with both sorrow and pride. When I cherish a kitchen, it's because that kitchen taught me freedom. When I dream of a garden, it's because that garden once taught me resilience. When I speak of community, it's because, in this very chapel, I learned that our shared stories can heal. I step closer to the altar, the rose-laden coffin to my right, a poignant reminder of both ending and beginning. Candles flicker, and I think of every moment of doubt I've overcome to arrive here. Some of you believed he made a mistake. You thought he should have left his estate to his siblings, his cousins, you. I understand that. But I hope in time you will see that he invested in a vision of transformation, of possibility, of second chances. The chapel doors swing shut behind the last grieving guest, and I remain at the back, heart still hammering from the lawyer's declaration. A suffocating hush fills the air, broken only by the soft rustle of fabric as mourners shift in their seats. I trace the carved embellishments on the pew in front of me, each swirl and knot reminding me of the years I spent trying to untangle our fractured marriage. Slowly, I rise. The polished wood floor beneath my feet is cool, grounding me in reality. Inhaling a steadying breath, I step into the aisle once more, not to lay another rose, but to stand before those who doubted me. As I move forward, the fractured light from the stained glass windows splashes across my face in shards of ruby and sapphire. It's as though the chapel itself is illuminating my transformation, from the invisible wife to the woman who now holds his final, unambiguous trust. Please, join me. Bring your skills, your stories, your passion. Let us create a sanctuary of nourishment, of body, mind, and spirit. Let the home he built become a beacon of hope, and this small chapel remain a place of reflection, gratitude, and unity. A soft murmur swells into polite applause, then genuine enthusiasm. I sense Pamela standing, tentatively at first, then clapping with unguarded sincerity. For a moment, our eyes meet, and I see an unspoken respect pass between us. As the echoes of applause fade, the pastor steps forward and offers a brief prayer of blessing. His words weave gratitude and compassion, sealing the promise of this day. Candles flicker one last time, then the room exhales. I step back into the aisle, heart buoyed by the shift I've sparked. The stained glass above seems brighter, the wood warmer. I return to my seat, chest fluttering not with fear, but with exhilaration. I have spoken my truth, claimed my purpose, and transformed judgment into possibility. Outside, the gray sky has brightened to a gentle blue. Through the chapel's open doors, I glimpse the world awaiting me. Friends, neighbors, curious onlookers, all ready to witness the unfolding of a new chapter. In my hand, I clutch my journal, its pages fluttering with outlines for the cooking school, the garden schedule, the list of volunteers. I close the book with a soft thud, the sound resonating like a victory. The chapel's hush has given way to a promise, the promise that, from grief and inheritance, something beautiful will grow, rooted in compassion, nourished by community, guided by the unwavering belief he placed in me. And in that revelation, I find not only closure, but the bright beginning of everything to come. I leave the chapel under a sky streaked with late afternoon gold, the sunlight dancing on the stone steps as I descend. My heels click steadily against the worn flagstones, each step echoing with the promise I made inside. The breeze carries the faint brine of the sea, tangy and invigorating, and I breathe it in, feeling it steady my racing thoughts. My SUV awaits at the edge of the courtyard, engine idling softly. I pause, hand on the door handle, and glance back at the closed chapel doors. Behind them lie the echoes of judgment transformed into collective purpose, and before me, the path to the home that will become the heart of my vision. I slide into the driver's seat and adjust my rear-view mirror, not to check my appearance, but to ensure I carry the calm resolve I cultivated within those hallowed walls. The drive to Maple Avenue feels lighter than before. Each turn of the wheel seems infused with the energy of every person who heard my words, those who once whispered against me, now willing hands in the work ahead. I navigate the coastal road with practiced ease, windows down so the wind can brush past me, teasing loose strands of hair and carrying the sound of distant waves. Pulling into the driveway of the estate, I step out and survey the home that has stood empty since my departure. Its broad columns and inviting porch hold a certain melancholy, now softened by the glow of possibility. Contractors' vans and tool trailers line the edge of the lawn, their presence a testament to the transformation underway. I can almost hear the hum of hammers and the scrape of saws even before I step forward. Inside, the foyer is alive with activity. Julio and his team move with professional precision, taping edges, laying tarp, measuring trim heights. I greet each with a firm thank you, my voice steady and warm. Martin hands me the updated renovation schedule for the week. Drywall replacement here, floor refinishing there, cabinetry installation next Monday. I study it and nod. It's all on track. I climb the staircase to the master bedroom, pausing at the window to watch sunlight filter through the glass. I press my palm against the cool pane and close my eyes, imagining this room filled with workshop participants reading recipe cards and planning their next dish. I feel contentment settle into my bones. Descending again, I find a small group of local volunteers gathered in the kitchen, neighbors, cooking students, a few curious passers-by. They're organizing ingredients and utensils for an impromptu meal: farm-fresh eggs, crusty bread, leafy greens. A half-dozen frying pans sizzle on a portable burner set on the counter. The air fills with the aroma of onions caramelizing and herbs crisping in butter. Laughter and chatter flow like warm soup filling a bowl. I step into the circle, smiling as an eager teenager corners me. "Miss Carter, can I whisk the batter?" she asks, eyes bright. I lift a wooden spoon from the counter and hand it to her. "Go for it," I say, guiding her hand. The batter smooths beneath our shared touch, a symbol of collaboration. Around us, the kitchen hums with energy. Cutting, mixing, stirring, each movement a note in a symphony of renewal. An older man with flour-dusted jeans and gentle eyes approaches with a tray of deviled eggs. "For chapel tomorrow," he says. "Thought we'd start the tradition today." I nod, touched. "Thank you. Chapel breakfast. Perfect." I take a bite. The creamy yolk melts on my tongue, and I savor its warmth. As the sun dips lower, contractors begin packing up for the day. I walk them out, shaking hands and offering sincere appreciation. I feel the camaraderie of shared purpose, a unity born from the day's labor and yesterday's revelation. Back inside, I retreat to the study, a cozy room lined with bookshelves and a worn leather chair I reclaimed for myself. On the desk lies my journal, filled with tomorrow's schedule. Volunteer orientation at 9 a.m., guest speaker from the Horticultural Society at noon, community potluck by 5 p.m. I set down my teacup and open the pages, heart still thrumming with excitement. A notification pings on my phone, a message from the local newspaper's editor. "Feature story tomorrow on front page. Keep me your quotes." I smile. The momentum of yesterday's announcement carries outward, rippling through the community and beyond. My phone buzzes again. Students confirming attendance, local chefs offering to teach classes, neighbors volunteering to tend the garden. I lean back in the chair, hands folded over my journal, and reflect on the journey from that first step into the judge-filled chapel to now. I think of every whispered insult, every skeptical glare, every gasp of surprise. They fueled me, but they no longer have power. My power lies in action, in kitchens filled with laughter, in gardens bursting with life, in a community bound by shared growth. Standing, I pen a final note in my journal. Today, we fed our first hearts and tasted our future. Tomorrow, we build on our promise. Thank you for believing in this vision. I close the book and make my way downstairs to the grand entryway. The evening light spills through the front windows, painting long golden beams across the polished floors. Through the open doors, I glimpse the path leading to the chapel, our next morning's gathering spot, where we'll consecrate this new chapter. I pause at the threshold, hand resting on the doorknob, and inhale deeply. This house is no longer merely walls and memories of pain. It is a sanctuary of possibility, a testament to transformation. Behind me lies the past, closed, honored, learned from. Ahead lies everything I choose to create. I step outside into the twilight. The air is cool, scented with jasmine and rosemary from the neighbor's garden. Fireflies begin their evening dance. I close my eyes, feeling the steady heartbeat of this place beneath my feet. When I open them, I smile. The chapel bell tolls in the distance, a gentle reminder of the vow I fulfilled and the community I serve. I raise my chin, shoulders squared, and set my gaze on the road that winds to the horizon. My journey hasn't ended. It's only just begun. If you've ever felt underestimated or risen above expectations, subscribe and share your story. Comment with the city you're in so we can build a network of hope and transformation that spans the globe.